In their paper, A Field Study of the Software Design Process for Large Systems, Curtis, Krasner, and Isco presented a 5-layer behavior model of software development processes. The model is depicted in the following slide here of their paper. Let me just pull it up. That's my dog grumbling in the background, rubbing his head on the carpet, so not me. The model illustrates behavioral issues at all levels of individual, team, project, company, and business milieu. The model emphasizes psychological, social, and organizational processes at each level. Their goal was to understand how these processes affect software productivity and quality. And so let's take a look at them at the individual level. The individual level is concerned with cognitive and motivational processes of individual software developers. At the team level, cognitive and motivational processes interact with the social processes of the team. Issues of communication and coordination arise within and among teams. Going up to the next level, the organizational level, projects undertaken by the organizations are determined by and affected by corporate politics and corporate culture. At the business level, the organization in which the projects are conducted interacts with other elements of the parent organization, with customer organizations, and may interact with subcontractor, vendor, and affiliate contractor organizations. Curtis and his colleagues emphasize that problems in a layer of the model can expand into, affect, and be affected by other levels. Now, the size and the structure of the project determines how much influence each layer has. For instance, the higher levels of the model might exert little or no influence if you're doing a small project for an internal customer within your local organization. But if you're doing a large project for an acquirer who represents multiple customers or multiple customers within a single point of contact, the projects involve vendors and subcontractors at the higher level of the models exert a strong influence on how you can organize and conduct your project. Now, this is a poor quality, but I had to take it off of a PDF of a publication that we're copyrighted and authorized to use through the library. It's actually in your book as well, but they didn't provide anything in any PowerPoint on it. And I think it's worthwhile because this probably is a better explanation for you than others, the other one by itself, of the challenge of remoteness of communications and all the different sections. I think the only one that needs explaining is DoD on the bottom right, which would be a Department of Defense. And so obviously this is a government-related contract as a result, and very typical of finding some of the challenges that we have. The federal government of the USA has been terrific supporters of expanding how we do software project management with so many different projects, starting with the one of them being the Polaris missile. So those are all errors. And what they did is they studied 17 large projects across the 5 behavioral levels. And the 3 areas that they looked at, the problems, were: 1 was the thin spread of application domain knowledge, 2 was fluctuating and conflicting requirements, and the 3rd was communication and coordination breakdowns. And so here we are on the first one, on the thin spread of application knowledge, and you can go through it yourself. But there's one thing that that I noticed on this, where the more nodes of information that information has to go across, the less likely that it is accurate and adequately communicate across them. And I think of when I was at camp as a kid, we'd have a game around the campfire where you'd whisper into one person's ear, and they would then repeat it to the next person. It would go all the way around the fire, and by the time it got back, it didn't even sound close to what the original message was. Now, I must confess that when I was 15 and doing this, I'd always mess it up on purpose just to throw a wrench into it. I didn't realize that it would have worked without me throwing a wrench, but I don't know how many others did it, but it was amazing how different the story was by the time it got around a campfire of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, depending on the year that I was working at that camp. So there you go. So that's some of the finding, thin spread of application knowledge at the end. It takes a look at the individual level, the team level, the project level, and the other two as well. And you can see each one has its challenges. The conflicting area, always a challenge. And at the business level, and notice that they do it backwards here. The fluctuations differ among customers, so you can you can have results from different market factors depending on the customers you talk, right down to the individual level at the bottom, where and I highlight this so that you don't fall into this, that individuals would think that they understood the system, so they'd add enhancements that were never asked for, not required, of no use, and a complete waste of time. So finally, communication coordination, it just gives you an idea of how much effort and how important this soft skill of communication comes. Extensive communication was not reduced by documentation at the individual levels. That's probably when you go, so see, we don't need documentation. Unfortunately, it's needed in other levels. I like the third one as well, where at the project level, sometimes political barriers to communication cause a problem. So that's a little bit about this study. So the major factors here in productivity, quality, and costs are the issues by the thin spread of application knowledge, the importance of managed learning. So all those things tie in, of course, communication and coordination. Effective communication at all levels is crucial to all aspects of managing a project. So in closing, let me quote Curtis with how he put it, and says, these problems have survived for several decades despite serious effort improving software productivity and quality. We're not claiming to have discovered new insights for engineering management. Rather, we're trying to organize observations about the behavioral processes of large system design to help identify which factors must be attacked to improve overall project performance. Hope you take this to help you, as many of you have only worked on small systems, and the challenges of large system are significantly different and really slow down the productivity that you could have with a small company. This is why large companies tend to slow down, is just because of all these different layers of getting things done versus, say, a small startup who can be much more nimble and look like it's far more productive, and it usually is. So that's the end of Chapter 10.